Today I'll be reviewing the Potensic Atom drone and taking it around various locations in North Wales. The drone actually feels surprisingly good build quality. It's a sub 250 gram drone, which of course often makes flying a lot easier in terms of regulations. Flight per battery is quoted as up to 32 minutes. More realistically, in a usual flight, you're going to be looking at more like 23 to 25 minutes.
Potensic sent me this drone, but they've got no control over what I say. So if it's a flying potato, I'm going to let you guys know. It's a Sony CMOS sensor, 1/3 inch, and this is the sort of size you can expect on mid-range smartphones these days. So in normal lighting conditions in the middle of the day, the quality should be good, but it is going to in part depend on the software, so we'll have to test it out today. So for takeoff, you just press this button here in the corner and then swipe to take off. So the propeller noise, I'm pretty close to the drone and it's pretty good, I'm impressed. Right, so what I'm trying to do here is just rotating the drone round and seeing how well it holds its position and how smooth it is just rotating. And I think that's pretty impressive. There's a little bit of an up and down movement as you'd expect with the wind, but the drone is fighting to hold its position. I'll have to look at the video quality obviously when I'm back in the screen, but on here it does look pretty nice. It's maybe a little bit oversaturated the colours, but we can fix that in post after, no problem. Now, if you notice, I've got some guidance there. I just like to know where the centre of the shot is. You can't with this drone have ND filters, so if you notice the shutter speed is cranked right up. Now, whether you'll see that any issues with that, I don't think so. I think it should be okay. It's a slightly controversial topic actually, ND filters. Some content creators say you must use ND filters. Others say it's not as important as people make out. Now this is quite an important shot here. I'm going to try and do an orbit here. Thumbsticks in opposite directions. See, can I get, it might take me a little while to get used to this. Can I get a nice smooth orbit from this drone? That's pretty good, it looks pretty good. So I'm trying to keep this building here in the center of the frame. Let's get a little bit closer to this venue and try another orbit. Tilt the gimbal down and see how smoothly we can do this orbit shot. Okay, so I go first with the right stick and then gently push in with the left stick. It's not perfect, but as you get used to it, you get used to the tension of which way you should do it. And bear in mind, this drone, you can't tweak the settings in terms of your gain and expo tuning. Now, I would like to be able to do that. Then again, with a beginner, you haven't got too much to play around with, you haven't got too much to worry about, you haven't got all these setting videos to watch. You can just fly your drone straight up and then focus on being as smooth as you can with the controller. And the controller feels comfortable enough to fly with. Now I would love if there was a histogram on, I'd just like to see it so I know I can expose in the center as much as possible. Unfortunately, we haven't got that option. I'll give you a little quick rundown of what we've got on the menus. Okay, so we've got speed settings. So we've got video normal. So I assume video is a bit smoother. So we'll keep it in that as we had it. Probably go a bit faster in normal. And then sport will rip along as fast as possible. So we've got return to home. So I want it to return to home if I lose signal. Silent return, so it doesn't beep. It's not that important. So we've got the max speed of the gimbal, so that's how smooth the gimbal tilts up and down. To me, this feels about right. Okay, so what we could do, let's go further back a bit. So you could do a reveal of this building here. Okay, so you've got the cat, so you push in and then tilt the gimbal up as you're moving towards the building. So having smoother settings gives you that more cinematic look. Okay, if you had them as they were out of the camera, as your drone, as you first switch it on, it would probably be a little bit too fast. I think they have it at 10 set as default. So this looks pretty good, you know, for the first flight. pretty good flight experience. I'm not seeing any noticeable lag in terms of the controller feed. I did see a video on YouTube where they were talking about a lag. Maybe I've just been fortunate with this first flight, but so far the transmission seems pretty good to me. So let's have a quick go at the return to home.
Returning.
Drone's about to land. I'm going to see how far it lands away from the pad and then I'll give you a shot. That's quite impressive actually. That is close. Right, I've now seen the video on a big screen. What's the verdict? Is it a great drone or is it a flying potato? Somewhere in the middle. It's a good beginner drone. There are a few issues. Now, the first time I watched it, I was looking at the shot of the hotel, okay? And I thought, yeah, that looks pretty decent. I was looking at the hotel, okay, and I had the sun behind me. Second time I watched it, I noticed there was a little bit of noise in the background, in the mountains, in the sky, and even worse, in the trees. But it's still all right. And remember, the first time I watched it, I didn't notice that. And remember, I think about 80–85% of the viewers, unfortunately, watch your content on the phones. So they're not going to notice it. I did test the footage, I exported it back to my phone and watched it, and I couldn't see the video noise. Now, when you're facing against the sun, unfortunately, the noise becomes even more obvious. And in that instance, I immediately saw the noise. Okay, so if you're gonna get the Potensic, I particularly recommend that you look for the direction of the sun before you fly and just fly that way, okay, with the sun behind you, facing the topic. It's not really worth trying to get your shot because it does destroy it, unless you happen to have neat noise reduction. By the way, I'm not affiliated by Neat or in any way. I probably should be because I've mentioned them a few times. When you apply it on the shot with the sun behind you, then that's starting to look really good footage. And on the shot against the sun, this makes a huge difference and it suddenly becomes pretty decent footage. It's not brilliant, but it's a lot better. Anyway, tomorrow the mission is to test out the QuickShots at the beach. On dating apps these days, you can have videos, so I'm going to set a challenge of making myself look as cool as possible. I want to look adventurous, you know what I mean? Look like I'm standing there, cool, so any girl's going to want to go on a date with me. Let's see how it goes.
Failed to calibrate.
Failed to calibrate, oh, get it. Right, okay.
Horizontal calibration. Vertical calibration.
Oh no, it's that way. Okay.
Calibrated successfully.
Nothing like calibrating your drone, eh? Let's try a circle here.
3.
Seems to be doing it, that's good.
1. Go.
Yeah, this is looking pretty decent. Now, obviously be aware with this drone, it's got no obstacle avoidance, so you want to fly it in wide open areas, like the beach or a park, really. But this is decent. This is decent. This is going to be a tough while it's facing against the sun. I think the drone's going to struggle with the image quality in that section. But I think as it comes around here, it'll look good. Yeah, happy enough with that.
I also tried out the Boomerang mode, and this was my favourite actually. The drone moves more aggressive, so you're going to have to be a bit more careful if there's any surroundings around you. Be careful about using this in mountains because it does move a lot faster than the other modes, but it does look a lot more dramatic. So if you're in a wide open space, this is definitely my favourite quick shot. Some of the others like the rocket and the pull away, yeah, they're okay, but I wasn't really blown away with them. I like the circle for those slow cinematic shots, but the Boomerang was my favourite. The active track was actually really good, to be fair, better than expected. Even DJI drones for a long time have struggled with the active track. This actually looked pretty smooth, so it's definitely punching above its weight for how much you spend for the active track feature. Another feature, which is usually associated only with more expensive drones, is waypoints. You just click on the map, select the waypoint icon, and click the points on the map you want the drone to go to. Just then click go and swipe confirm. Now, it is basic, this waypoint feature. You have to set the height yourself and also the gimbal tilt. And you can actually change the height and the gimbal during the waypoint mission, which is handy particularly with the gimbal wheel. So if you want to do gimbal moves, it can be quite difficult flying the drone and moving the gimbal at the same time, whereas if you've got the movement already dialed into the waypoints, as you can see I'm doing here, it makes it a lot easier to be smoother. You can also toggle between watching the waypoint missions on the map or seeing the drone camera view itself. As I said, the waypoints here are basic, but I did actually enjoy how easy it was to use. Let's say I'm going to a new drone location I've never been to before. I can have a look before on Google Earth or Maps, and decide to myself, okay, I want to go here, over here and over here. So I think waypoint missions, it does seem to get you a lot of shots very quickly that otherwise you might miss. It's a cool feature. The Potensic Atom shoots 12 megapixel photos in both RAW and JPEG in a 12:9 ratio, and I was pleasantly surprised by the quality. It actually performed better at sunset than I expected, although you do want to fight to keep that ISO at 100 and create that more moody silhouette look. Now, I spoke a little bit before about the noise. I would also say about the video quality that I do find the video straight out of the drone to be a little bit too high in contrast and also with a bit too much sharpness. So I did send Potensic an email with my suggestion about this, how in future they could perhaps try a firmware update where give the users the ability to modify the contrast and sharpness settings. Ideally, I would love a log profile, but if that's not possible, then I think it'd be great to just dial down the contrast if we want to. For some shots, you can get away with high contrast. Let's take that example of the castle before. It looks okay, and in post I actually dial the contrast down a bit. But notice now as I get closer to the castle and I want to show this angle, the crushed blacks just get too much. You can definitely get some nice shots with the Potensic. Hopefully I've shown that in the intro. It's just you haven't quite got the flexibility because so much is dialed into the drone already. In the live flight I showed you before, the drone was very stable, as you could see when I set it off, and I would say 6 times out of 7 this was the case. However, now and again, I'd say 1 in 7 flights, on taking off, the drone drifted for a couple of seconds. Then it stabilised itself and it was fine for the rest of the flight. Based on this experience, I would always recommend flying the Atom in an open area and be patient for it to get GPS signal as well. Overall, I think the Potensic Atom is a great value beginner drone. Now, if Potensic can make some of these tweaks I mentioned before, such as contrast, sharpness and noise reduction control, then I think the drone is starting to appeal to even more people, especially bearing in mind that it doesn't have geofencing.